Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. Going to talk about two words today, very impactful. The two words are second chance. We all want a second chance at something for whatever reason that is. When you've decided, I need a second chance, let's relate that to your life, your relationships, maybe your personal relationships, maybe marriage, vow renewal. She's somebody that helps people all the time with second chances, first chance as well, but also the second chance, especially if you want to do that second chance in a wonderful, tropical, beautiful place like Hawaii. Simple Kona Beach Weddings is what she performs and plans everything for you, so you don't have to really do anything except show up and enjoy. Becky Ringler is back with us. How are you doing today?
I am wonderful, Steve. I'm really glad to be here, and I think this topic is really fun to talk about. There's so many, by the way, like you say, definitely first chances. I do a lot of first chances with people, but I feel like this topic is really pertinent to a lot of my couples, this sort of second chance kind of feeling. This is with weddings, with vow renewals. There's all sorts of different types of second chances, and I feel like I feel really honored to get to be a part of those kinds of things. And I'm trying to think where to start because, you know what, let's start actually with weddings, because you'd think about vow renewals, right? A second chance with the vow renewal, which we will talk about. Okay, so there's lots of different types. Obviously, if you're getting married again, it doesn't have to be your second time. It could be your third or fourth time. I've married many people who've had it, but it's like a second chance at love. And also, for some people, it's a chance to have the wedding they really wanted the first time, which often just a beach wedding, and that's what they did not have. So the second time around, or third or fourth, they get to do it the way that they really wanted to the first time. And oftentimes, with a better fit for them, right? They're doing this again. I see so many people who in their vows, they say, I never thought I'd find love again. And then you came along and I can't believe it. And it's so touching to me to see people come together at all parts of their lives, from, even younger people with a second chance to I've married people. I think the oldest was, I want to say 87 and no, maybe 80. I think it was 88 and 85 or something.
Wow.
It was really cool. So there's lots of different types of second chances. I've even married couples that have been married before who got a divorce and then got married again. So I've married them a second time, which is kind of funny.
It's the same couple.
The same couple to each other. So that is truly a second chance. I've done that like 3 times, maybe. I mean, that's not that many over 10 plus years, but I think it's kind of a lot.
It's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
And says a lot, too, in terms of relationships. And I give them a lot of credit for realizing that you were the right one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I the other thing is that I've married people, it might be for one person, it's their first wedding. I married this one couple, I think 5 or 6 years ago. They were each other's first kiss in summer camp. And he never got married. He held a candle for this girl for his whole, they were like 12, and he held a candle for her forever, and they reconnected after she got a divorce, and then they got married. And so they kind of got a second chance. Also, I've married a lot of couples that have dated previously, and then they broke up, and then they found each other later in life. And there's so many types of ways to have a second chance. I've also married people who, they had a real wedding on the mainland, like the big wedding that everybody wanted. And then they come for their honeymoon and they do the wedding that they wanted, which was the small beach wedding. Just they wanted to run away and elope. So they do that as part of their honeymoon. So there's a lot of different, and sometimes they do it before, like a secret wedding before their big wedding. So they actually do run away and get married. They don't tell anybody. And then they have their big wedding. So there's a lot of, I get to be parts of lots of fun secrets too. So, yeah.
Wow. I want you to keep on doing what you're doing, because I want to talk to you when you marry a couple, then they break up, get divorced, and then they get remarried, and you did both. You follow what I'm saying?
Well, I would hope that they don't ever get divorced.
Well, yes, we don't want, no, but what I'm talking about is it's sheer numbers. where,
Yeah.
it happens. I don't even have words for the gentleman who, held the candle waiting for that one person. Wow. How do you even describe that? You being the one to start their lives together after hearing a story like that. I got nothing.
Very special. I feel like the best thing about performing weddings, obviously, because I get to know all of my couples ahead of time, I help them plan everything. So, and we do it over Zoom. And for those of you watching on video, you'll see this background. Although I have just recently moved, I'm keeping this background because you see the Kona airport back here, but the ocean is really beautiful. We have a very beautiful new view, but this to me kind of captures it for my couples.
Honestly, it really does, because you've got the foliage, you've got, of course, the airport, you've got the clouds, you got the sky. It's and then there's a little house on the left-hand side in the foreground, which is, looks like, one of those houses there in Hawaii. So it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But where was I? I don't even, I know where I was. So I'm like, I totally diverted myself. The point is that I feel it's such an honor to have the chance to be with couples, because I've gotten to know them, and to have them trust me for this really special moment in their life, especially, I've talked about this before. There are times when I tear up during a ceremony. I'm able to hold it together, because my job is to hold everything together, even if people are falling apart. But it can be very emotional sometimes, and it's so touching and so beautiful, and such a cool experience. And of course, not just with weddings, vow renewals. There's, people do this vow renewals for so many reasons, and for some, it's just to mark an anniversary, like, hey, I just want to tell you how much I love you. But then there are times when a couple is really having trouble, and they do this to recommit to each other. Like, this is the start of they're recommitting, truly recommitting to each other. And it's to say, hey, we can do this together, and I'm going to recommit to you. I just recently did a vow renewal like that, and it was like, and also they were from another country, and so there was actually a break in the middle of the ceremony where the husband said, hang on a minute, and then he has this long dialogue to the wife in the middle. And obviously I couldn't understand what they were saying, but I could feel what they were saying, and it was really this very heartfelt reconciliation. And then we moved on with the ceremony, and when they did their vows, their kids were there. They did their vows to each other, and very much to the kids, like, look, I'm promising. Again, this part was in another language. I'm not going to say which one, because I don't want to out the couple, because it was very personal. But regardless, it was really beautiful, and it was emotional, and they were promising their kids too, hey, this is. You could just feel, even if you don't understand, you can understand. And the husband said to me, he's like, this is a real relationship. This is what a real relationship is about. And it was fascinating and beautiful. And it was really a heartfelt moment to see them come together. So that's the kind of second chance too. So there's a lot of that. All sorts of types of second chances. Yeah.
And in those vow renewals, unless they share it with you, you wouldn't know. So that could be happening more than you think. We think of a vow renewal. Hey, we've hit 20 years and we're just going to renew our vows, and that's fantastic. However, it could be a new start. They might not even be sharing that with you. Maybe they went through some challenges, and so there could be a lot of that going on. Have you ever had a situation, Becky, where you just got so choked up, like you needed a moment or two, maybe three, just because of the, it's a very emotional situation. Have you ever been there?
Yeah, for sure. I can always pull it together, because that's part of the performer in me. and the therapist in me, where it's like my job to hold the space. So I need to, but I do take a moment every so often. I talked about this a long time ago in a podcast, but I feel like it's a great example actually of a second chance, where the couple, I was on my way to meet them at the beach a couple days before their wedding, and they called me and said, "Hey, the beach is closed. We'll just figure it out." And I said, "Fine." And I go to turn around and I hear all these sirens, and they had been hit by a car. They'd been T-boned, and they ended up in the hospital. And he was just shattered. His whole body was shattered. She was in a neck brace, and I was going to fly to Oahu to do the wedding bedside. They'd asked me to come, and then they ended up coming back to the Big Island. And I did their wedding, and it was so emotional for everybody because they almost died, right? And here they are doing the wedding. Everybody was tearing up. And of course, now that, by the way, they're all recovered. I followed them on Instagram. They have a baby, like they're so happy, but they looked at it as, we've been given a second chance and we're still going through with this. Like, this is like a moment. And we were all kind of choked up about that. And then just a couple weeks ago, I did a vow renewal for a couple. The husband is very ill with cancer, and he was able to stand through most of the ceremony. We had a chair for him for times he couldn't. It was so emotional and so beautiful, and we were all trying not to cry. Well, they were crying. I tried not to. I cried a little bit and took a moment because there's so much happening when, by the way, on top of, well, let me finish that. I'm sorry, I'm like cutting myself off. There's something really special about people really wanting to commit to each other when they're in a dire health situation, and also after they've overcome a dire health situation too. So sometimes people go into remission, and then they have a ceremony to really say, like, "I'm so happy you made it. Like, let's recommit. We went through so much hell together, and you stayed by my side, and I want to, like, here's a new chance." So there's just a lot. There's a lot. And I do take a moment if I need to, but again, my job is to hold the space so that if they lose it, I'm going to hold it together and allow them to move forward, but also allow them space to feel, right? So, yeah.
Do you wear sunglasses?
No.
Because I'm thinking if you get teary, nobody would ever know, and you just pause for a moment. And then
No, we try not to wear sunglasses. I occasionally in the morning, I have once or twice with the permission of the couple, because it kind of ruins their photos. But I always say, we don't want to go blind. So there are times when sunglasses are necessary, but typically no. So there's no hiding. Everybody's on display. Husband, wife, everyone. So
yeah. For the vow renewal, and there's many different, as we've identified, and thank you for doing that. Oh my gosh, I'm seeing this in so many different ways. What are some suggestions for a vow renewal? Is there anything different that we do? Is there anything special that can be done?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times people want to involve their children because obviously, sometimes the kids were born right before the marriage, but a lot of times they say, "Oh, my daughter or my son really," they keep asking about, like, "Why wasn't I at the wedding?" And we try to explain, "Well, you weren't born yet." And so they get to be a part of the ceremony, which is really fun for them. And so I, help them involve their kids. There's sometimes people re-exchange rings. Sometimes there's surprise rings that I help arrange. I mean, I don't purchase the rings or anything, but I help keep the secret. And then, or sometimes they ask me to buy they send me a special gift that I have to bring, and then, for them. So there's a lot of cool ways. And it depends. Sometimes maybe they eloped. Like sometimes people elope for their marriage. They go to City Hall, or they did it in Vegas. And then this is the wedding. Like this, it might be 15, 20 years later, but this is the wedding they always wanted to have. Maybe they couldn't afford it the first time around. Wow. So it's really special. In fact, I just did one in August, I think it was, for a couple. The daughter-in-law and the daughter planned this, and the parents didn't really have a real wedding. I mean, they had a wedding, like a real wedding. They were legally married, but it wasn't anything. to speak up. I think they were at City Hall. And so this was their 50th wedding anniversary. And they came to Hawaii for a party and a celebration with the family. And then the girls surprised them with this. And they were the cutest couple. And they were just so thrilled to have it happen. And of course, they were non-native English speakers. And so I curtailed parts of the ceremony to make it easy for them. And they were so happy though. And the parents were expressing to me afterwards, they told me more of their love story because I didn't get to meet the parents ahead of time, right? This was all a surprise. The kids did tell them like a week before they left so that they'd be emotionally prepared, but it was still a surprise to them. And it was really cool. So there's so many different ways to make it special. And I always say, tell me your story. Let's help you make it special because it can be, there's a lot of cool things you can do. And you don't have to have new rings, by the way, but that's a neat thing to do too. So an anniversary band.
There's like so much, it's almost endless what you can do, especially when you're in a tropical location like that, where it's you have a little more latitude in terms of being more casual, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I mean, really, you can this goes with weddings too. You can make it as informal or as formal as you wish. The one thing I say is just don't wear heels on the beach. I mean, if you do, wear wedges or thick heels because you're going to sink into the sand. But otherwise, that's part of the reason people do a wedding here on the beach is because it is, even if you're wearing formal clothes, there's something that makes you relaxed, the breeze and the waves and the wind and the birds. It's pretty cool. So yeah, there's a lot of neat things that you can do.
What's the most either unusual or interesting item that somebody wanted to bring to a ceremony that you had to present? You alluded to that a moment ago, but it can be very personal to them. I get it. But anything stand out for you that they said, yeah, well, we want to add this to the ceremony, or we want you to reveal this at the ceremony?
Most of the time I would say it's a piece of jewelry, but occasionally it's like a special hat, like the person's a really big sports fan, or there's some kind of like special, thing for them that's very personal. I did have a British couple once, and he sent me this very expensive bag that she really wanted, like this $1,200 bag, or I don't know. I mean, it was a very expensive bag. And he's like, she's always wanted one of these and I want to do this for her. Can you bring it in a box and like, I'll surprise her. I feel, and then of course people bring items, just to commemorate, like bring their pets with them or something. And so they bring like collars and odd, I shouldn't say odd, just like little odds and ends of things that remind them of things. But I would say there's nothing been like so off the rails or anything. But most of the time, I would say the gifts, unless it's a piece of jewelry, are given at the end or like, another point after the ceremony, unless they say, oh, I want to like, reveal this in the middle of the ceremony. And then we would figure out where the best place to do that is. And, there's always a place where it makes sense. And then we'll talk about it and do it that way. But usually it's really fun to see the person surprised with the jewelry. If the person's a jewelry person, by the way, if that's not the case, people have given crystals and like, whatever kind of floats your boat. But yeah. I'm trying to rack my brain, but that's what I can.
Even the bag thing is interesting. To a man, I don't judge anyone and nothing is odd. However, I could see the man thinking that, yeah, she's loved this bag, so I'm gonna whip it out during the ceremony. I don't know if that's the best place for it, but that's what he felt at that time. And my first thought is, all right, put something in the bag. Like, honey, take a look inside there. Something impactful. I'm always thinking like that, but it's still kind of cool, though.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a really great idea. And I don't know if we did put anything inside or not. And by the way, he did give that to her after the ceremony. That was not during.
Okay.
All
right.
That was not during the ceremony. So I will say that it looks more tactful.
Thank you for the clarification. But you know what? If that's what he wanted during the ceremony.
Oh, I would have done it. We would have figured it out.
and he knows her pretty much.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's not like, he's this random thing. It's something that maybe there was a joke that they had. Well, honey, when are you going to give me that bag? Someday I want that. And then
Right.
Here it is on that special day. I still think it's cool that he even considered that, because he's considering her feelings.
I thought it was very thoughtful. I mean, he was so excited about it, and she loved it, and it was just a really beautiful moment for them. So, yeah, I mean, the other thing that people surprise me with occasionally, Steve, is that I don't know that she is pregnant until the ceremony, and then they allude to it in their vows. So, and sometimes they reveal that to everybody during the ceremony. Usually not. Usually people tell me, or they say, like, by the way, no one knows it, but I'm pregnant and we're not telling anybody yet. So then I'm holding that. But I try, and if it's a secret, I don't allude to it during the ceremony. If it's not a secret, of course, I'll talk about it during the ceremony. But occasionally I do not find out until the ceremony is happening. And it's because I haven't told very many people yet. Usually it's early on, she's not showing, that kind of thing. And they don't, for many reasons, people don't like to share that kind of news until it's further along.
Talk about a reveal. I mean, there are gender reveals, but that's the ultimate reveal, and it's cool. Yeah. Again, what I'm getting from you today, Becky, is there's no judgment by anyone in any way. That's your moment. You want a llama walking up the hill and delivering the rings in its mouth. Whatever. Okay, cool.
I will say we do have an alpaca farm here, but they're not allowed on the beach. So you'd have to have a private venue to arrange the alpacas. And I have not personally done that, but I do know that it can happen. But again, you have to have a private venue that allows that. But I would go over the pros and cons and share with you like what would happen if you want to do that. The same thing with we did have a dove release once at a wedding. There is someone who does that here. And again, certain places you can do that and certain places you can't. So it's pretty cool. There's a lot of neat things. The one thing you cannot do is ride in on a horse. There's no horses allowed on the beach in Hawaii, wow. Despite the fact that you might see some in photos. That's not allowed here anywhere on our beaches. So, and I've never seen one on a Big Island beach ever. I know they do that in Oahu occasionally, but it's not allowed here.
Have you had ever during a ceremony a prenuptial signing?
Nope.
I'm kidding.
Not in front of me. So,
but then again, if that floats it for you, no judgment.
Oh, right. And usually people do that ahead of time before they arrive in Hawaii.
Imagine what that would be like during the ceremony. Yeah, and by the way, here's a pen, and if she knew it was coming or he knew it was coming.
Here's something else I'm giving to you. Yeah.
Again, that's your wedding. You can do whatever you want. Simple within the guidelines of Hawaii. Like you said, yes. You can't have a horse. And
I will share with it. You can talk to me about all your fantasies, and I will tell you what you're allowed to do here. Fantasies are allowed, and then you can decide okay, if that's not allowed, then sometimes I say, hey, then have you can always do a small wedding here and then do a big reception at home and do all the things that you were thinking about that are allowed. So there's lots of options. And sometimes people adjust what's important to them too. So after we talk about it.
Love your creativity. Yeah. Anybody's thinking about either a second chance or first time out, what a place to do it. Simple, KonaBeachWeddings.com. Thank you for being here today. I wonder where we're going to go with the second chance thing, but boy, I see it in many different ways and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Great.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.